passed a resolution strongly condemning what they said was the ongoing Nakba by Israel against Palestinians.
And in communities like Hartford, communities like Wyndham and Willimantic, communities like New Britain, New Haven are overburdened by the amount of hazardous permits in our towns and cities.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. Let's start with some good news. The British Labour Party, meeting in convention, passed a resolution strongly condemning what they said was the ongoing Nakba by Israel against Palestinians, and noting the B'Tselem and Human Rights Watch statements that Israel practices apartheid and calling for sanctions against Israel. After the vote, Labour Shadow Foreign Secretary Lisa Nandy announced the leadership cannot support the resolution. It was a sentiment later backed by party leader Keir Starmer. So the Labour Party decides, and the leaders just say to the rank and file, go to the devil. It's not surprising. Starmer has been engaging in a purge of anti-Zionists in the Labour Party, many of whom are Jews. But the news is great anyway, and the resolution was sponsored by Young Labour, so that shows the direction of left sentiment in Britain. And it's going on despite all the efforts of the right-wing Tony Blair Labour Party fakers. This picture is from a Facebook post by Amina Masri. The picture shows Putin and Assad bombs dropping and a few three-star birds of the Syrian people resisting. Amina comments, Russian bloody intervention in Syria going on for 6 years has brought death, displacement, and destruction. Thousands died and continue to die. Millions are living under trees and displaced without any basic human necessities. And the worst part is the whole world is allowing it. Shameless world. The Connecticut Supreme Court turned down a lawsuit by people who claimed that the agencies that approved the killingly fracked gas plant didn't consider potential damage to the environment. This may have been the last chance for the courts to stop 2 million tons of CO2 a year to be spewed into the air, not to mention the local dangerous gases. The next step for people concerned with the climate is a rally and march in Hartford on October 30th. As with the town hall, the theme will be ending environmental racism. Here's a video from the September 18th town hall.
Put science back in all schools, yes. It's funny how they cut science, they cut art in the hood, and they wonder why, but I digress. With all due love and disrespect, I agree. So the next person up here is Sara Bronin, who is part of Desegregate Connecticut in zoning, and she is the mayor's wife. Sara Bronin.
So I'm Sara Bronin. I'm here from Desegregate Connecticut. Who here has heard of that group? Couple of you? Okay, great. We are a coalition of nonprofits and neighbors that has gotten together to talk about something that seems super esoteric, super maybe strange to talk about, but we are here to talk about zoning. Zoning is the hidden power that dictates how we live and where we live. And as a result, it actually dictates how much of the environment we destroy to accommodate our housing rules. So take, for example, Connecticut. We're all here. We all care about this state. We've mapped, and actually we have here with a few people, Nick Abbott, our deputy director, Emily, who was one of the leads of our data project, and Robbie, who was our longtime outreach coordinator. Lots of you have probably interacted with him. Emily and others on our team mapped out parcel by parcel across the state zoning. And guess what we found? We found that 80% of residential land in the state requires a 1 acre minimum lot size. Okay, so let's translate that into what we're talking about today. What that means is that it's much harder to live in Connecticut without tearing down a bunch of trees, without building into our farmlands and forests. It means that it's more expensive to live in Connecticut. So you can see that housing justice and environmental justice are intertwined just in that one little statistic about zoning. We have a ton of information on our website, desegregate.ct.org, and we encourage you to learn more. Sharing is caring. One of the speakers just said we have a ton of information for you to hope that you guys get engaged in the land use fight as well as the environmental fight, because they are really, really linked, and we're very pleased to be here today. One last thing that I'll mention, we do have a free mailing list. We have on that mailing list in your town, all across the state, every week, really important zoning decisions are being made. We are in favor of housing. We are in favor of housing near train stations and fast track stations. We are in favor of building more housing there for people who need it and not out sprawling into our farmland and forests. But you can actually get engaged in zoning today in your town by showing up at your planning and zoning meetings, at your zoning board of appeals meetings, and raising your hand to say, I am an environmentalist and I support housing in smart places, in places where we have a transit nexus, in places where we're not going to start tearing down trees just like our laws now require us to do. So we're in it for the long haul. We know you are too, and we hope that you see these zoning and land use issues as actually being really central to achieving everything that we want to achieve here as a community to protect what we love about our natural environment and our state. So I'm going to leave it there, desegregate.ct.org, and we support all the organizations here in their efforts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sara Bronin. Thank you, thank you. So the next presenter is me, Lady Abstract. Like I said before in my introduction, I am the lead campaign organizer for the Sierra Club Connecticut chapter. So I'm staff, and I am leading the Ready for 100 campaign to make Hartford a clean, green city that will help everybody alike. Yeah, no discrimination there. So I will be sharing my poem called Green Light, the Lyrical. So. Last night I had a dream that Michael Jackson was in the ring, fighting the devil with a grin. Too late, he yelled, as they went to hell bound by the love of God. How odd. This morning I had a dream about the ring that beamed on my finger, and I pulled the trigger. My mama said, God don't like ugly unless he loves ya. As I dance and sing with love on my chest, I be blessed. I gave the green light to my brother, and I told him to make it green like no other. Last night I had a dream about Michael Jackson giving me a warning, telling me not to trust the devil in the shadows, for he will play you like a fool. This morning my grandmother said, child, That's what the old folks say. Don't go dancing with no devil you don't know. You don't know. You don't know. I feel her from afar. She left a scar under my eye. Wildlife from Chicago to this land, yo. We be marching on sacred land, yo. You must hold my hand as I dance with the ancestors and sing Jackson 5 fresher than the breath of the ocean, cause it be poison from the waste we make. Give me the green light and we all gon' fight so we can get it right until the break of dawn, until the break of dawn. Last night my brother found God in his voice. She told him to make a choice, choose heaven and warn below, choose life and let the trees grow. My brother ran to me with the green light, his destiny. He say, sis, you the green witch? The one who knows how to switch the light on and let the world be born? Sis, you are right in this place? Sis, you good for the chase? Racing through time so that I become 9 minutes we wait, then it's too late, 9 minutes we wait, then it's too late, 9 minutes we wait. Thank you. That was exclusive. Y'all heard that first? Yay. So, our next presenter is Alex Rodriquez. I'm sorry if I'm saying your last name. Rodriquez, thank you. Save the Sound, Strengthening Environmental Justice, Law and Transportation Collective. So, give it up for Alex.
Oh, that's all good. It's all good, you know. I'm here, you're here, we're all here fighting the good fight for climate action and ending environmental racism in our state. Am I right? Are we gonna fight for zero carbon electricity ASAP? Am I right? Are we gonna fight for clean transportation for our people? Am I right? Are we gonna fight for climate change education in our schools, as my mentor mentioned earlier? You know, this movement is at a crossroads. This past month, we had two, gravely crazy news that hit us. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report really stressed that we have to double down on reducing carbon emissions from across all sectors of our society as soon as possible. And then the DEEP comes out this past week and informs us all that we are not on target to meet the Global Warming Solutions Act. Absolutely bonkers. And why is that? Because this state has an unhealthy relationship with the fossil fuel industry. It's unhealthy for us, but it's great for them. And we're here to put a stop to that today. We're here to put a stop to that for the long run. Am I right? We want climate action. We demand climate action. We demand expanded energy efficiency programs. Did you know that the Energy Efficiency Board is going to continue to fund fossil fuel subsidies? Can you believe that? Boo! We need people like you all in front of their faces at the Energy Efficiency Board every month telling them we want the expanded energy efficiency. We are struggling to pay our energy bills. We are struggling to survive. How can we put bread on the table and afford our energy at the same time? Times are tough. We had this worldwide pandemic wipe us out. Times are really tough. We need climate action at the regulatory level. We need to make sure that the Energy Efficiency Board stops this unhealthy relationship with the fossil fuel industry. We got to sever these ties. But we can only do that if you are all in front of them testifying, letting them know that you want an end to that relationship. We should be expanding energy efficiency programs and expanding renewable energy programs. But at the rate we're going, that is not going well so far. We are supposed to reduce carbon emissions 45% by 2030, below 2001 levels by 2030, and also reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050, as according to the Global Warming Solutions Act. In addition to that, we are supposed to be expanding the renewable energy sector 40% by 2030, at least 20% by 2030. And we are not on target to meet that, because the way that the rules have been drawn over at the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority makes it so difficult for clean energy programs to be expanded upon. We need a change. Who wants renewable energy here? Who wants solar? Who wants wind? Those things are on the way, but they need you. We need you to testify at the Energy Efficiency Board and at the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. They need to see your faces. They need to know that they need to expand on these programs so that people can afford them and thereby live a more dignified lifestyle, a retransfer of power that the fossil fuel industry so greatly enjoys over to the hard-working people of Connecticut. Am I right? You know, originally I was going to talk about the need to strengthen Connecticut's environmental justice law, and I am still very adamant about that. I still believe that there should be policies in place to give the DEEP more regulatory authority over the kinds of projects that get accepted in environmental justice communities, state-identified environmental justice communities. These are communities with at least 30% of the population living 200% below the federal poverty line, and communities like Hartford, communities like Wyndham and Willimantic, communities like New Britain, New Haven are overburdened by the amount of hazardous permits in our towns and cities. It is disgraceful. It shows us that the DEEP and the companies that they do business with, the DEP and the companies that they're doing business with, are prioritizing their business over our public health. And that is BS. And we got to do away with that too. And that is why we will, that is why we at Save the Sound and CCAG and Sierra Club will be revisiting the environmental justice law, strengthening that next year in the legislative session. Because we've had enough with polluters over our public health. We've had enough of that. And so I think I want to end it here and just let you all know that even though it's going to get harder before it gets easier, we need to lean on one another. We need to share the wealth. We need to make sure that we are sharing space with Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are being ignored by the mainstream media. We need to do all we can to highlight their voices and their struggles and join in conjunction with them on the major issues impacting their everyday lives. Energy efficiency and transportation and waste is a way to meet them halfway, but let's go the extra mile. Let's work with Black, Indigenous, and people of color to highlight their stories via op-eds in the media, LTEs in response to the crazy propaganda that some of those folks up the hill are spewing. They are bought by fossil fuel lobby. They are bought by the crazy lobbyists that are trying to prioritize profit over our health. We outnumber them, but we need to be together in this. We need to lean on one another. Bring your stories to the media. Bring your stories front and center. Op-eds, LTEs. Let's work together on getting them in the media. And I'm going to end it here.
Thank you, Alex. Give it up for Alex again.
Last week, we had a bit of video of Bill McKibben, noted climate activist, speaking about the Killingly plant. Here's another section of his talk. McKibben was asked about problems of exploitation and pollution due to the extraction of the minerals like lithium that are used for renewable energy. We're going to play his answer, including his last rather terrifying words.
I think that's a reasonable worry. And in fact, it's already coming true, and you can see it in places around the world, Bolivia, Tibet, other places, looking at cobalt, looking at lithium, looking at other things. So 3 things to say, 4 things. 1, we need to be really cognizant of that, and we need to work hard to prevent that from happening as best we can. And forewarned is forearmed, and we should be, and people are to some degree, starting to try to mobilize to keep that from happening, or to keep the processes as clean as possible and as humane as possible. Second, we should not let that slow down, if we possibly can, the transition to renewable energy, because the sheer math of it is absolutely overwhelming. So let's pretend for a minute that climate change didn't even exist and wasn't a truly existential crisis. Remember that number I gave you before, 8.7 million people a year, most of them poor and living in urban slums, are dying every year from breathing the combustion products of fossil fuel. So getting off fossil fuel will have an extraordinary, that's 1 death in 5 in our world. Third thing, the total burden of mining when you move from fossil energy to renewable energy drops remarkably, okay? Something like 80%, because most of the mining we do around the world is for coal and gas and oil. And so the total desolation that comes from mining, hard rock mining in particular, should go down dramatically. Fourth, there will be problems with it, and there is no doubt about that, because there's always problems that come when, human greed and things intervene. And those are terrible problems that we've got to do our best to deal with, but they are not existential problems. The climate crisis is an existential crisis. If we do not solve it, and solve it soon, then the toll on this planet in human life and in the life of a huge percentage of the rest of the DNA that we share this Earth with will be like nothing since at least the last asteroid hit home, and this time the asteroid is us. So thank you.
A few days ago, the Obamas used shovels to formally start the Obama Presidential Center, or what we call the Obama Vanity Project. I say formally because the destruction of sections of Jackson Park in Chicago is already underway. I'll read a few sentences from an opinion piece on September 15th in the Chicago Sun-Times, written by Laletta Robinson. Earlier this month, the Women's Garden on the Midway at Jackson Park was destroyed to make room for the Obama Presidential Center. For those of us who live near Jackson Park and have become spoiled by its natural beauty, The loss was jarring. Every foundation stone from the 1893 World's Fair Women's Pavilion was removed. Every plant from the May McAdams design garden was ripped out. Every tree was cut down. Those were the words of Laletta Robinson. All told, some 1,000 mature trees will be cut down and carbon dioxide released to the atmosphere. The caption under the Obamas' pictures should read, "The Obamas do their part to bury the climate." Last week, the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War honored the work of the late Dr. Bernard Lown, who died in February, and who, with a doctor from the Soviet Union, accepted the 1985 Nobel Peace Prize on the group's behalf. That year, Lown also received PEP's Gandhi Peace Award. At the event, there was some excellent classical music, including pieces for cello played by the legendary Yo-Yo Ma. Go to PEP's site, pepeace.org, to see the video. And at that site, sign up for PEP's Climate and Nature Listserv. Join in the discussion about their modest climate proposals, like taking over and abolishing the fossil fuel industry, rationing burned fuel, and rewilding land. That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.